Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a good show for you today. Got a really good guest. Going to bring him on in just a moment. He's a return guest. Got a lot to talk about today, so can't wait to get into it. As always, you can find this and the back episodes of our podcast at our website, ordinarymarathoner.com. Check it out if you get a chance. You can also download that podcast app to your iPhone. Search for Ordinary Marathoner. If you like the show, hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss a new episode that way. You can also find them now over on YouTube. Got our YouTube channel up and running, downloading all the podcasts over there as well, the audio at least. We do have a few videos over there. Didn't quite get to the trailer that I want to make for Stephanie's return to running after the ordinary baby is born. We are going to get to that. We're going to get to that soon. We've been talking about it, before I know it, the baby's going to be born, and I'm going to miss this whole opportunity to do this trailer that I've been talking about. Anyway, she's going to do a video series about getting back into running. We're going to do the Couch to 5K program that is on our website. That was put in place by Nick Cumbo of Ascension Multisport. I had him on the podcast. He helped us out by making the Couch to 5K program, and I hope it works for you. If anyone's out there looking to get up off the couch and get involved with your first run, it's definitely something you're going to want to check out, and we're going to be getting to that. I imagine that's going to be rolled out. The actual series itself will probably take place in early January, but we need to get ready now. I got to work on my video chops. I'm just I'm a little lacking in the video editing department, but we're going to figure it all out together. We're going to put out a good product for you guys. Anyway, what else do I got? You can follow me over at Twitter at Ord Marathoner. That's ORD Marathoner. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. I am getting crushed by my followers are just disappearing. I'm down 300, and I'm sure it's just the bots. It's just driving me nuts. It drives me absolutely nuts. Anyway, we can get the conversation going on over there. We can also check out our Facebook group, man. It's been a really, really good spot. A lot of chatter going on. We got, we're in the heart of marathon season. I ran Hartford last week. Or really now it's 2 weeks ago. We have Marine Corps Marathon coming up. We have New York City Marathon coming up. A lot of big ones. And look, if you're involved and you have questions, you want to post your training and see what you're up to, just to share or whatever it is, tell stories, whatever it is. It's an incredible resource, an incredible place to hang out. I found a lot of support over there. It's probably, of everything that we've done with the Ordinary Marathoner brand, I'm pretty proud of the Ordinary Marathon and raising money for a charity. But getting this group together has to be a close second if it's not number one. So check us out over on Facebook at Ordinary Marathoners. It's a closed group. You got to add yourself to it. We will approve you right away, and you can join the conversation over there. So with that, I'm going to introduce today's guest. He's a former podcast guest, so he's a return guest. I can't remember if you've been on once or twice. I feel like it was twice, but I don't know.
I would say once.
Once. All right. Well, we hear your voice every single podcast because I totally ripped. I made you say "Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast" during our last podcast, so I hear your voice every single podcast that I do. You're the first voice everyone hears. Martinus Evans, welcome to the show, Martinus.
What's up, Scott? I forgot I even did that.
Yeah, I miss you, man. I feel like, you know what? I feel like you and I have this friendship where it's I've known you now for probably 3 years.
Yeah. And
you've been on the podcast once, and I've been on yours. But I see you on social media all the time, and I kind of keep up. For the most part, I keep up with what you're doing. You have your group, 300 Pounds and Running, and your website, 300poundsandrunning.com. Now, let me ask you a question, because when I say the website, but I want to make sure I get the actual URL right. Is it? It's the number 300. How does
300 spell out pounds and running?
300 pounds and running. POUNDS, yep. No LBS, right?
Right.
And what about the Twitter address? While we got you,
Twitter is 300 LBS ANDRUNNIN.
There. Oh, no. Running? Oh, all right. You probably ran out of that last space for the G.
Yeah, I ran out of letters, man.
That's all right, man. You're talking to Ord Marathoner. So I know how you feel. So, you contacted me a couple days ago, and you sent me this article, and I really want to get into that. But since I haven't really spoken to you in quite some time, let's catch up a little bit. Let's, what have you been up to? What have you been up to like the last year? I know the last time we spoke, I think you had some injury issues and it was kind of keeping you away from training. I think you put off a race or two. What have you been up to in 2018? What's the 2018 Martinus Evans looking like these days?
2018 is looking amazing for me. I moved out to California. So that was a great thing. This year I did, let's see, I'm looking at the medals now. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 half marathons. I'm training for New York City in a couple weeks. I see a couple 10Ks, couple 5Ks up there. So
you got that medal rack right above your,
yeah. Let's see.
Right above your computer there, huh? That's a good deal. Just read it right off of there. So have you been focused a lot on half marathons? Is this like your comeback, or is this just more? Is it just more manageable?
It was a comeback year for me. So this is my first year back, like since being injured, like fully back. I was running in 2017, and I just had some Achilles issues that had me to put down New York City. So I had to defer.
I remember that. We talked about that last podcast. Yeah. You were going to do, I think I did New York City that year. We were going to meet and then it didn't happen.
I had to defer because I had some Achilles issues. So I had to get that taken care of. And this year, I'm just running long and running strong. I actually switched up my method of running too. So I used to be able to run, like I used to run straight through. Now I'm doing Galloway intervals.
Okay. So, you know what? It's funny. So, all right. So I ran the Hartford Marathon 2 weeks ago. And I've always had this mental issue about running and trying to run the entire way. Like, it's like, it's a mental thing for me. And I think for me, long story short, I think it stems from growing up and being involved in sports. And when the coach tells you to run, you run. And if you walk, you get yelled at, right? So if it's run a mile, which rarely happens when you're younger, but if it's run a mile, it means run a mile. And if you walk, you are at the mercy of your coach and they are going to yell and scream. And so there's a punishment attached. Now after doing the Ironman, and the Ironman, there's this thing called the Ironman Shuffle, because by the time everyone gets to the run, no one's running the whole way anyway, especially towards the back of the pack. So they do a lot of Galloway method. There's a lot of run walking, and I kind of got into it by accident because I ran into someone who was doing it, and it was effective for me. And so I tried it in Hartford Marathon, and I did a lot of walk run intervals, and I PR'd by a significant amount. I broke 5 hours, 4:59 and change. Woohoo!
Okay.
And so now I'm kind of embracing this. So so when you say Galloway, I'm assuming this is what you're talking about, like run walk intervals. How have you put that together?
For me, I did a lot of experimenting, man. I experimented with 5 minutes, 5-2. I experimented with 90-30, 30-30, 60-30. What I found out works for me is 60-60 intervals or 90-30 intervals, depending on the race. So do you,
do you sit there staring at your watch, or do you have like an app that like beeps at you? I had an app that beeped at me when Stephanie and I did a Marine Corps marathon. We did the same thing, and we had an app that beeped every couple minutes. But how do you do it?
Yeah, I got an app on my phone. Ironically, it's called the Intervals app. It's called Intervals.
Yeah.
And every minute, it lets me know when to run and when to walk, and it lets me know like the halfway point. So when I'm doing like 90-30 intervals, like it really helps me out, because when you're used to like just running 60 seconds, when you add that extra 30 seconds, you be like, man, like, when is this going to be over? So the point that it let me know, like, you're halfway through this interval, I can kind of talk myself throughout the rest of it. Like, oh, I only got 45 more seconds. I can do this in 45 seconds. Oh, I'm talking to myself. Oh, I probably got about 15 more seconds left. I can do this with 15 seconds. And then next thing you know, I'm walking.
That's it. You know what? That's a good point. And the walk is like the benefit. It's almost like, I know some people use, like, sometimes I use my energy gel. Like, I think of it, I try to, even though it tastes horrible, like I'll try to think of it like it's a great meal, and I'll be like, oh, if I can get to that next water station, I can get my energy gel, and it's like a great meal. But but I try to talk myself into it. But similarly, it's like, you can get to that extra few seconds to get to your walk, and your walk is like I got to the rest. And then, you have that 60 seconds again, which is, it's a significant amount of time to recoup. And have you found that are you getting better times? Are you than you used to be getting, or are you just still working with it, or how's it looking?
So I did it all this year. My times are slightly slower than when I was racing a few years back before I got injured. But I think for myself, it was one of those last precautions for me, as far as like injury prevention. So right. Achilles is like one of those things that is touch and go. It's very finicky, and I wanted to run because I was driving myself crazy. So that's one of the reasons why I started doing the Galloway method, was more of a buffer before I kick up things in 2019.
Oh, so what's planned for 2019? Well, first of all, you have New York City coming.
Yes.
Like this is like next week, like 2 weeks.
Yes.
2.5 weeks, something like that.
14 days away.
Oh, you're counting.
Yes.
This is good, man. And you have you actually done it before? I know you did Detroit, but you never did New York. You signed up for it and you deferred it. It's a wonderful race. You're gonna love it. My only warning to people doing New York is that when you're finished, you're not finished. You have to walk like another mile just to get out. I don't know if anyone's told you this.
Yeah,
but it's like, it's brutal.
Miles.
Oh yeah, it's 27 miles easy. And there's no way around it. Like they're going to funnel you that way and you have to walk all the way around. If if from out of town, you're probably going to check bags, but if you can avoid checking bags, they give you a little poncho, and it's actually like a really cool, you'll never ever wear it again. But it's like a really cool memento to have. So I don't know if you've probably already selected that or not, but,
I picked the poncho option. So I have my my co-host Latoya Shante Snell. Yeah. So on 300 pounds of running podcast, we have 2 podcasts now. So we have the long run with Martinus and Latoya, and then we also have like the 300 pounds of running aspect of it. And Latoya is from New York, and I'm gonna stay there with her a couple of days, and her husband is gonna have our bags after the race.
You gotta get the Sherpa, right? That's great.
I'm getting the infamous poncho.
So are you now? You guys running together, or are you going your separate ways?
We're in different corrals. So we're trying to actually figure that stuff out now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're probably going to meet up somewhere and do the thing. Just do it.
There you go. That's a good idea. I don't know if you hear my dog making a guest appearance on the podcast in the background, but this is like the second week in a row he's done this too. I gotta work with him a little. We gotta get him trained a little better. So what about next year? Now you talk about next year is going to be like a bigger year for you? Or is that, you plan on doing more marathons? Or you plan on doing
more marathons? Just not stop running. For me, from 2018 to 2019, I'm just not going to stop running. I'm talking to some of my friends out here. Even when they're not running, they're staying around 15 to 17 miles as far as like training runs, right? Wow. So I will never ever be out of shape for another marathon because I'm going to stay around that 15 to 17 miles, even when I'm not training for a race. Yeah. So it's just keep running. I've already have a couple marathons on my calendar. I have Oakland Marathon on the calendar, which is March 24th. And then I also have Big Sur Marathon already on the calendar. And I'm working with a project. It's not necessarily ready yet, but it's going to be an ultra marathon, and I'm trying to team up with some folks to get this going, but it's not really ready.
So you don't want to announce it. Yeah, you're right. You know what? Hey, look, you move out to Cali. Next thing you know, you're doing Oakland and Big Sur. I like it. And you got a spring marathon. The spring marathons are hard to find, and hopefully it'll be easy. I know you're from the Northeast, so you know how it is to train in the winter up here. Hopefully you won't have as much of an issue with the winter training in California. Hopefully your weather's a little bit better.
Yes.
But I like what I hear, man. I do like what I hear. It's like, I gotta be honest. I was a little concerned for you when you had the injury. I was like, I was nervous that you might kind of, that the injuries are hard. They're hard to deal with. Yeah. They're hard to deal with physically, harder to deal with mentally, because it's sometimes hard to like step back from it. And then once you step back from it to heal up, then it's hard to get back into it. Cause, you've been injured, you've been out for a few months or whatnot. And then when you get back into it, where you used to be able to do 10 miles, now you do 2. And it's mentally taxing. Now, how'd you get yourself out of that? It's just hard work?
It is hard work. I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. When I was injured and couldn't run, I wanted to die because running for me was that thing, and it was taken away from me, and it was rough. It was a rough time, and getting back. I remember getting the okay to run, and just being like the greatest thing ever, and being happy to just do week 1, day 1 a couch to 5K.
Yeah, because
I wasn't able to do it, and just being grateful in that whole journey. Like I was at the peak, necessarily the peak of my running journey, and then to like get injured and be right back on the couch.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting thing to be in, to like be
Starting
in the car.
Yeah.
Exactly. To be in the car watching people run and being sad and depressed, being like, I want to run too, but I know I can't. To being able to be like, all right, you can run again, and starting all over. It was more or less joyful for me than taking the other aspect of, I used to be able to run faster and I can't do that no more, so I'm gonna be mad. For me, it was more of a being gracious and being joyful that I'm able to do something that I wanted to do and not be able to take it for granted.
You know, and actually this comes full circle a little bit, I think, because I remember we had this discussion on the first podcast, and this is like, so now it's almost like you're running for joy. You right, your first day of running, you're thrilled to be back. You're
right.
Over, right? I mean, that's just the way you portrayed it. Now, if I go back to when you first started running, and you had a great story about when the doctor told you, like, you said something to the doctor, like, I'm going to run a marathon, and the doctor was like, the doctor like laughed at you or something, right?
Exactly.
And then so, but that running, like, you started running almost out of anger, like almost out of to prove someone wrong,
out of spite. I started running out of spite.
And now, so it's kind of come full circle here, where you started this running out of spite, you started this journey, and now you've kind of adapted this joy to it, which I think is like a wonderful, and I think a lot of us go through the same sort of, storyboard, I guess, where you start for whatever reason, and then you wind up loving it, and you get involved, and there's something about it that it just keeps bringing you back, and now you love doing it, man. All right, so listen, so where is this podcast website? What is this project? This 300 pounds and run it? Like give me, I know because I've seen you around a lot, but I just want to give you an opportunity to kind of lay out 300 pounds of running. What is it? What are you doing? What's the community about? What are you striving to do? And then we're going to get into your article after this.
300 pounds of running is a source for inspiration, motivation, and education for other individuals who have a larger stature that wants to be physical active without the worries or pressures of losing weight. So for me and my personal journey, everything changed when I stopped chasing the scale. And my ultimate goal for me in life is to run marathons and races no matter what weight I'm at. So if I stay 354 pounds for the rest of my life, as long as I'm able to run races, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Not necessarily saying that, I'm being so active, I'm not going to lose weight. But for me right now, and for the journey and for the community, weight loss is secondary. It's really about being active, larger bodies, being active without the pressures of weight loss. Because I think for a lot of people, and a lot of people who are overweight that go through this, we look at it as a mechanism for weight loss, right? We've been fat all our lives. Everybody tells us to start running or do something to lose weight. And then we only do it because it's a punishment because we're fat, versus it's being something that can cause you joy, and it's a joyous thing for you. So that whole change of thought, is 300 pounds of running. One of the things that I'm screaming from the top of my lungs is, this is not a weight loss journey. This is a health improvement journey. This is a running journey. This is a physical activity movement. It's everything else but a weight loss journey. Yeah,
and I think you make a great point, and I hate to bring this back to me but I will for a second, is this past week when I ran my marathon, and I PR'd. I actually went into this marathon weighing more on the scale than I ever have heading into a race. And I ran the fastest that I ever had. So when you say it's not a weight loss journey, it doesn't have to be. Like it doesn't, it doesn't have to be. You don't need to be skinnier to have the performance. 99% of the people that go out into any given race are only racing themselves.
Exactly.
No, if you're the 1% racing for a prize or racing first place or racing to qualify for another race, good for you. That's amazing. Be competitive. Go out and get it. I support that 100%. But most of us are out there racing our prior times, racing for just to prove that they can do it. Just something different. And it means something different to everybody else. But it's so individual. So I like the concept, I guess, is what I'm saying. I think it's, because I think that people do get scared away from it, because they don't think they belong. And I think that's not cool. And in reality, I think that the running community, there's a certain element that isn't very accepting, but 95% of it just embrace anyone who comes in. And it's supportive and it's great. And I don't know, maybe I just travel with the right people and they're nice. But do you find the same? I mean, I feel like your message is fairly positive, very positive. Do you ever get like slack? I mean, the slack is probably very minimal. Like,
yeah. With every movement, especially with things that goes against conventional wisdom, there's always going to be slack. There's always slack about, you're fat, you're always going to be fat, or, why don't you, or I get questions of, why don't you want to lose weight? I'm trying to understand why you don't want to lose weight. And I never said I'm not trying to lose weight, but this is not a weight loss journey.
Right. Yeah, and I totally get. I mean, I think, in terms of running, in terms of the sport, you're looking at accomplishing things, whether it be finishing races or improving your time or doing whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to. I mean, it could equate. I mean, if you wake up tomorrow and you lose 75 pounds, are you going to be like, that sucks?
No, and that's the thing, and that's what people don't understand. Like, if I wake up tomorrow and I look up and I lost 75 pounds over the course of 3 months of me running marathons or me stacking races where I got half marathons 3 weeks in a row at Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, and I lose some weight, I'm not going to be upset. But the thing is, it's not my goal, right?
Yeah, it's not your primary.
My goal is to stack my calendar with as much races as possible, fill these walls up with as most races and medals as possible. And for me, weight loss is a secondary thing. Like I won't even say it's secondary. I would say it's tertiary to what it is. Like it's like more of a third level thing that I might think about later on down the line.
And you know what?
But for me, it's like races, time, medals, heart rate, blood pressure, and all that other stuff.
Oh, geez, that's a huge, that's a huge. I mean, right. And as you get older, and it's like you go to the doctor, and you have the blood pressure issue, which I had, and we both had, I think. And it's just my numbers improved so much when I started running, and all that stuff. It just all of the there's just so much benefit to it, and honestly, I really like seeing guys like you out there, because what you provide sort of a gateway. You make it okay for people who perhaps didn't think that this was something they could do. You make it okay for them to try it and for them to do it. And I think that's inspirational. I think it's wonderful. And I think, obviously something you should be proud of. And obviously I wish you continued good luck with all of that.
Thank you, man. And that's the thing. I get messages every day that's like, "Dear Martinus, like, I'm glad I found your page because for all my life, my husband or my significant other has told me I need to lose weight first before I start running. And you are an example of why I shouldn't listen to them."
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And that's all I'm saying is being active at no matter what weight you are, you can start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? There are Couch to 5Ks all over the place. And, my wife is 8 months pregnant. she hasn't been doing a lot of walking, running, whatnot, and she wants to start running as in a couple months after the baby's born. And so we're going to do a Couch to 5K program. We're actually going to do a video series with her I'm plugging my own stuff here. But in that vein, I think, we're going to do a video series where a weekly thing where she does the Couch to 5K. I think it's a 10-week program. And I hope it spreads a similar message that you're giving off, which is basically everyone starts somewhere. If you're sitting here listening to this podcast, or if you listen to Martinus, or if you read our stuff, the message is for you. It's for everybody. It's, just because you're on the couch now and you feel like you can't do it, everyone starts somewhere, man. I mean, I remember huffing and puffing those first few runs, thinking I could make a mile, and then being like totally embarrassed and shamed of myself that I could only run a quarter mile, and before I had to stop. So we all start somewhere, and get yourself some support, get yourself on the right track, a plan, a program, and get up and moving. And I think Martinus is definitely an inspiration in that point. So thank you for that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, now with that, it's time to turn to your article. And here's what I'm going to tell you about this article. So Martinus contacted me a couple days ago. He was like, "Hey, man, can you post this article? Check out my article. I want you to read it." And I didn't read it because I just trust Martinus. I know, he's part of the group, and he asked me permission to put it on the page, or for me to put it on the page. But our group, the way our group typically works, is it's better for you to post it on the page. Mm-hmm. I say this, I've had people ask me, it's very polite of you to ask, because you're sort of promoting your own thing, but you're free to post on my page anytime, my friend. Mm-hmm. Whatever you like. So it was cool of you to ask. So I just said, all right, just post it, and then I'll read it later. And then I started reading it. And I said to myself, and I'm not going to give you a free pass on this either. So, but I'm going to say, in general, I support the theory of your article. We'll get into it. As a matter of fact, let's get into it. Let's why don't you give us a little bit of a synopsis of the point you're trying to get across?
The point that I'm trying to get across with this article is one simple thing: is that the back of the pack is a emerging population in the running community, and we need to be respected and treated as the same as the people who are in the front of the pack. And the sentiment of the article and the way the article read is from 8+ years of being in the back of the pack and being disrespected in the back of the pack, as well as sharing other individual stories who also have back of the pack horror stories as well.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, some of those were horror stories. The woman who got lost in Memphis because they took the course markers down, I mean, it's kind of unforgivable.
Yeah.
You can't let your runners get lost and not know where the course is, no matter where they are. You have to know. For me, I think in that particular example, why a race wouldn't have someone at the back of the race following the very last person to make sure they know the way and make sure no one gets lost and make sure. I don't get that. I think that as a race director, you need to be responsible for every one of the runners that are out there. And a lot of races do better than others. And I think with a lot of the examples that you had out there, some races way better than others. Would you agree?
Agree.
And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of things that come up. I mean, why don't you share a couple of them? I know, there was unmanned water stations and things of that nature. What else did you have up in there? Yeah.
So, the way the article is set up, there's a list of demands. So they go as thus, leave the water stations up. And if the water stations can't be left up, leave a water cooler with cups there for the back of the pack that you can come back and get later. Leave the time mats down. So let me just give you some backstories to this. So I had a race, and they ran out of medals. I knew they was going to run out of medals. However, in the email, it was stated that all half marathoners would get a medal, and we would do something for the other people that was there because it was a half marathon, 10K, and a 5K. So I was expecting a medal being a half marathoner.
Yeah.
I get there, and my significant other tells me that they have been out of medals since 2 hours for a race that has a 3-hour cutoff.
Yeah. Unprepared.
So that means that you just gave out medals and did not
They didn't say
obey.
Right. Yeah, what they said.
You did not say what you mean and mean what you said. And with me sharing that journey on my podcast, a lot of other people start to share their journey or their stories as well of like being in the back of the pack and medals running out or waters and things of that sort. So this then led me to do just a quick, harebrained survey, right, that I did on my Instagram and Facebook to say, have you ever had a race run out of water, time mats get put up, or run out of medals, and you made it before the cutoff? And I got like this influx of stories, man.
Yeah.
I want to say somewhere around like 100 to 200 different stories from Instagram, Facebook, emails, like all of these stories of like people like sharing, I was this, or I'm not even the back of a packer, I'm a mid-pack runner, and they ran out of water when I made it halfway there. So I can only imagine the back of the pack. So like reading these stories and hearing and then having those stories resonate with me, and then having my own stories of being in the back of the pack and running since 2012. These are some of the things that I came up with, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are the demands. Leave water up there.
Yeah, and I'll say another thing that you mentioned was the timing mats. I mean, that's crucial because you have family that are sitting there watching you go from timing mat to timing mat to timing mat. And then if they pull one of those mats, your family has no idea that they pulled the mat, and they're waiting for you to hit the next timing point, and you don't hit it, but yet you've crossed it. They have no idea where you are. Being a back in the packer, and especially if you don't have water. I mean, if you don't have water, and they said they were going to be water, now there's like health issues involved. Especially if you didn't bring your own, now you're dehydrated. You're no timing mat. It's a lot of concern. There's a lot of things wrong with all that stuff that you mentioned, and like the one thing I do want to clear up though is that the thing that you mentioned here that I'm not so sure was very clear in the article. Mm-hmm. Races typically have cutoffs.
Exactly.
Now I ran Fort Lauderdale Marathon, and this is 2 or 3 years ago, and Stephanie and I were there. We were waiting for the beginning. And we were talking to this couple, and they travel the world, and they do marathons all over the world. This guy's doing like his 600th marathon, which was insane. And I said to him, this is like your 600th marathon. Like, how long are you going to take to finish? Figuring he's going to say like 3 hours. And he's like, no, it's going to take me like 8.5 hours. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, look at my knee. It's all bandaged up, and he's got a brace on it. And he's like, I can't run. He's like, I walked the whole thing. And the marathon is a 6-hour cutoff, but he called in advance. And he said, how are you going to accommodate me knowing that I can't, race the 6 hour, I can't beat the 6-hour time limit? And they gave him very specific things. Well, the finish line is the last thing they typically take down. And a lot of races do that. They start, if it's 6-hour time, time difference, they'll start pulling the mats, they'll start pulling the water stations. But I think this guy did the right thing. He called in advance. He knew exactly when and where what they had promised. And he didn't expect anything beyond that. But you're not really talking about that, right? You're talking about more like, there's a half marathon. You said there was a 3-hour cutoff. I'm here at mile 12 in 2 hours, and there's no, and there's no water.
Yes.
And that's unforgivable. That's not, I don't know. And it's what do we got to do about this, Martinus? How do we make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen?
Well, that's the reason why this article was written, to raise some awareness.
Right. And here's the deal. Now, you used some pretty strong language. Yes, I did. In this article. Yeah. But fight me isn't the solution, Martinus. Come on.
It's my platform.
This is what you're going with?
How, Scott?
Yeah. I'm with you here. I'm with you on premise.
how can you tell me how can you tell me how to be upset on my platform?
All right.
Like, how can you, that's like you know, you do something and it upsets you.
Yep.
I'm not going to tell you, Scott, that's not the right way to be upset. That's not the right way to be outraged, Scott. Like, how you going to tell me how to feel about
I'm with
my
you.
experience?
Look, trust me. I have. So Stephanie finished a half marathon last year, third to last.
Mm-hmm.
The medals were in a box. No one was handing them out. There was no food left. The police officers that were at the last turn, because they didn't work for the race and they had taken the course markers down, they let Stephanie and her friend walk by and not make the turn. Mm-hmm. They didn't even stop. And this, I made a comment I got a little flack from it. I made a comment about police officers on the course because typically they're very nice, but I've met some that aren't because they're working and they don't want to be there. And there's like 2 or 3 cops, and she walked straight by the turn, and they didn't say a word. And then someone came and told them, "Hey, you guys got to go back. You went the wrong way." And this is what we're talking about. Right? This is, I mean, so I've been there, I've done this, but so I've seen it happen. And then she walks in.
Now imagine that happening since 2012, where every race that you've been to, let's say 80% of every 80% of every race that you've been to, that has happened.
Yeah, I look, I'm with you. I'm with you. Here's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna channel your anger. We're gonna channel it into solution.
Okay.
We're gonna channel it into solution. How do we stop this stuff from happening, Martinus? How? Because fight me is emotion. Fight me is anger. Fight me is not a solution. Yes,
but fight me is only 2 words of an article that's
true,
about 3,000 words.
True. But what I'm saying is now here's the way and this is what I'm seeing in my head. And since you wrote the article, I'm kind of hoping that you maybe hear some of this and sort of transform it into like a positive thing. For example, I'll give you some examples. You tell me if this kind of thing is workable. Example number 1, a rating system for back of the packers. So like you run a race, the race does not perform to your expectations in terms of having water available when it should, having medals, having, you have a rating system. No one should run this race if, a back of the packer rating system, the 300 pounds in running, back of the packer rating system, where you have people come in and say, hey, you know what? These guys were awful. The person who ran that race in Memphis, Memphis F, rating system. And that way your readers, your following, they know which races are the best for them. What do you think of that?
That sounds like a good idea.
See, I'm helping. I'm trying to help. I'm trying. Here's another one. This is what I came up with because here's the deal, Martinus, is I'm the kind of person that I loved your article. I did. I don't want you to think that I didn't, because I did. I loved hearing the problems because I've seen it happen and it's not right. And I wanted to clarify, number 1, I wanted to clarify the point about the time limits on the races, because I do think that that's important. And I think it's important that as someone who participates in events like this, and I've run plenty of 6+ hour marathons, you have to know what to expect. And if it's not within, if you're expecting something and it's not there, yes, you have a right to complain. But I didn't know that was delineated so clearly in the article. So I'm glad we cleared that up.
Touche.
Right?
And maybe that's something that could have been. Most of the comments are people that had said that I was within, said time limits.
Right.
So yeah.
You have a totally legitimate complaint.
I am talking about. So what about the people who finish a 7-hour course in 6:40?
Yes.
Or 6:50?
Right. Yep. The same.
Do they not
I agree with you.
Water
the waters,
even though they finished the race.
Agree with you completely. And I just wanted to make that clear because I didn't know that it was very clear in the article. Now that it's clear, I'm with you. Because you know what, too, is like you do have to understand, too, that there are volunteers out there, and the volunteers for the most part, I don't know why. The more races I run, I don't know why people would volunteer. These people are nuts. They're wonderful, wonderful people that they're volunteering their time to support runners, people who just go out there. But they're out there for hours on their own, just volunteering. So
absolutely.
So
why not hire volunteers in shifts?
Yeah. So I think that there's a point with that. Now, that being said, now I'm going to take my next point from the Ironman race. Mm-hmm. Now, Ironman has this tradition where the winners of the Ironman, they stick around and they hand out medals for the people who finish at the end, right? So what if you recruit, and they don't have to be the winners, but they have to, people at races recruit people that, like me, who maybe I'm middle of the pack now. I wasn't always, but maybe I'm middle of the pack now. But I don't want anyone to run out of medals, and I don't want the volunteers to leave. And hey, you know what? I'll stick around. And they do this at New York City Marathon too. New York City Marathon, there's a whole group of people that will sit there and stay there and stand there until the very last person comes through. So, I mean, maybe that's something too that we can, instead, like almost like try to change the culture and have, if, for example, if you're doing like you're doing Big Sur, or you're doing Oakland Marathon, and a guy like you, popular as you are, maybe you get a dozen people to run with you or be like in your little group, like, 300 pounds of running people that are going to go out there and run the marathon with you. And maybe they have family, they have friends who run a little faster, who can make sure that you guys get the support you need. Like you said with your friend in New York, like your friend's husband's going to go out and bring water. So maybe we get some people who are middle of the packers that after they finish the race can go back and make sure that, that the people at the end are still taken care of, are still treated fairly, and something like that, where I think like the traditions in New York City Marathon and Ironman are both really great, that they cater to, there's someone, when you finish New York City, if it's 9 hours, there's going to be people there to cheer for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love that.
But every race is not New York City though. It's
not. But if you have specific races that maybe have, and it doesn't have to be a million people, if it's half a dozen people, I don't know. I'm trying to think of and now I guess here I'm talking about people who would finish beyond the time frame. So you go out there and you're going to finish in 7 hours. By the way, last year I finished New York in 7:15. Okay. So, and they moved me off the street to the sidewalk, which was fine because that they're going to do that after a while. But it's if so, you're not going to finish. And so say I knew there was a chance I was going to be beyond 6-7 hours. I could, there could be people out there specifically there to bring in, to reel in the back of the packers and make sure that they're supported. Make sure you guys got the same, support, the same system, the same, that you got water. I mean, is there, I don't know. I mean, it's something I can get behind. It's something,
that's what I'm asking in the article.
Yeah.
I'm just asking for race directors to support the back of the pack and not pull up stuff before your time limit.
So
that's all I'm asking. If you have a 4 hour or a 3 hour half marathon, don't start pulling up stuff in 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
If you state whether this is going to be a gun time or chip time. State if this is going to be, like I said, gun time, chip. So it's going to start from when the gun goes off or when it's the last corral.
Yeah.
Why is that hard for race directors to do, right?
It's not. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
Why is that hard?
And so,
like language aside, sentiment aside, if you can't get past that to look at the true argument is that back of the packers are not being treated well, and we are upset about it.
Yep.
Like, that's messed up.
Right. And so I guess what I'm saying is, and I think rightfully so, I think the what's the word? It's the consequence of not fulfilling your promise as a race director could potentially lead to loss of the market sector of back of the packers.
Yes.
So how do we make sure that happens? Because you know what happens? The race that you do this year that runs out of water and doesn't give medals, someone's going to run that race next year because they don't know. And the same thing's going to happen to them. But so how do we do this? How do we...
But when you reach out to race directors and you get crickets, then what? Then you get an open letter.
Then you got to bail.
Right?
Right. Then you got to bail.
Then you get an open letter that says, F you, fight me. Because I did my part as a patron, correct? I paid my money. I ran the race within the course limit. It didn't go right. I send you an email, complain about you on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and you don't respond to me to say, hey, I'm sorry or anything. Yep. Yes, you get an open letter that says, F you, fight me, because evidently you don't respect me, and you don't respect my green money, even though I'm in the back of the pack.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yes, people, the press might come for Meb and, Des Linden and things of that sort. But it's the people in the back of the pack that pay their money and raise monies for these races that keep the races afloat. Because if that was the case, why don't y'all just have a race with Meb, Des, and the 25 other elites?
Right. Then you could pull the timing chips after 2 hours.
Exactly.
I'm with you.
That's not gonna make money though. That's not making money though, Scott.
No, trust me, and I'm with you. I think I want to try to focus the energy towards finding solutions to this and finding ways that either people don't run these races. There's no reason your money should go to a race that's not going to support you.
Correct.
There's no reason. So, but like I said, the race that you did last year that you didn't get your medal, someone's going to do it next year because they don't know any better. So how do you inform, I guess? And then on top of that, the races who do it right, they should get more of the back of the pack dollar.
I agree.
Okay. So, we have, I do a local race here. Well, you've done it, Cheshire Half Marathon.
Yeah.
Bill Costello, race director. He's been on the podcast twice, once the last 2 years. And 2 years ago, I finished in 2:15 and there's no food left. Mm-hmm. And the first year I ran it, there was tons of food. It was great. And the second year they ran out of food, and I had him on the podcast last year. And just like I'm doing to you, look, I'm having a good time. Are we going to raise our voice a little? But this is fun. But I'm not gonna give you a free pass. And I didn't give Bill a free pass either. Hey man, you owe me some pizza. Yeah. That's what I said to him. And last year, they fixed it. So he recognized that there was a problem and he resolved it. And, I said to him, I met him and I said to him, listen, and I said, this is actually the race where Stephanie had to get the medal out of the box. And I said, it just wasn't right that Stephanie had to get her medal out of the box. What if next year I hang around after I finish and I'll be the one to, if no one's going to be there, I will gladly stand there and hand out the medals. And he said, you know what? That was a problem that was raised last year, and we have people that are going to do that this year. So someone like that, at least he recognizes the problems and he resolves them, or does his very best to resolve them. Race directors on race day can't be everywhere at once, but he's very receptive to hearing the issues and then resolving the problem. So I think that's the kind of thing that we need, is we need to locate the race directors that are providing races that cater well to the back of the packers, and then support those races.
Agreed.
You with me?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do? How do we do this?
I think that's a hard thing to do, because you're talking about worldwide.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other things that they can do, for all races, is to have volunteers in shifts, right? So maybe you don't have a volunteer there for 6 hours. Maybe you get, you have a certain amount of volunteers and you do them in 3-hour shifts, 2-hour shifts, right?
Yep.
So then you don't have to have the burden of, these volunteers who are also hungry, tired, and everything else, because they've been there for 4-6+ hours, upset too, right?
Yep.
So refreshing volunteers, constant communication between everybody in the race.
Yep.
Like, that's a starting point. Having walkie-talkies to say, hey, we're running out of water here. Can somebody bring us a bag of ice and some water?
I've been in races too where they run out of water and then you pass it and you're like, and the worst is like you need the water, especially in full marathons. Like,
exactly.
It's not, I mean, it's you could die without the water.
Exactly. So it doesn't make sense that somebody has to go to a corner store on a race to buy their own water when they've already paid $75 plus for
I've heard
it.
that story too. I've heard people do that.
Having water, you can't have the signs up. But here in California, I've seen races that have those little stickers, right? So it's unintrusive to have a little green stick or a little arrow on the road if you got to pull up the signs that just says turn left.
Yep.
A piece of tape, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Like that's not hard.
That's it.
That doesn't cost extra money.
Yeah.
If you got to pull up the signs, can we move the timing mats to the sidewalk? Can we have up some of them, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Because I even think about this. I'm going to be in New York City for.
By the way, the timing mats may get pulled on you in New York City.
I already know that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be in New York City. My family, nobody's gonna be there. It's just me flying in. I'm chilling with some friends. Family is gonna track me via the tracking app.
Yep.
So, and that's one of the scenarios that I put on the in the article. I run the race. The race is 7 hour. Is a 7 hour cutoff. But they start pulling them up before said time. I finished the race in 6 hours, 6:30 or 6:45. And my family don't know that I didn't finish the race.
Right. I think that the finish line, I think that they keep the finish line up. I think you'll be all right with the finish line, but I think that there will be, and if you're you're going to be okay in 6.5 hours too. I think you're going to be okay. But I think somewhere around that time, they start pulling them. And I know people that have missed like maybe the last 2 or 3 chip mats before the finish, and it's nerve-wracking because you just don't know where they are, and you wonder if they bailed or if they're still going. You just don't know.
Exactly. So
it's frustrating.
Can we move the time mats to the sidewalk? Can we do the time mat has to be the whole width of a street?
Yeah.
Like, can we shorten the time mats so we can at least have?
It's a question worth asking. Right.
Right. Can we put them in the bike trails or the bike paths or something? Right.
They're going to move. So what happens is they move you because they did it to me. They're going to move you to the sidewalk at a certain point. Like I said, I think you're going to be good if you're 6.5 hours. I think you're going to be on the street the whole way. I actually, when I got on 59th Street last year, they moved, which is the south of the park. That's when I got moved to the sidewalk. So it was just at the very end in the last mile. And some people even just jumped the barrier and ran the rest of the way on the street at that point. But, for New York City in particular, the sidewalk timing that might be different. But, here's the thing. At least at least it's been communicated that the timing mats might get pulled. So you can alert your family, hey, if you're watching me and it gets to mile 20 plus and I don't come through a timing mat, don't get nervous. It's probably just they pulled the timing mats. At least you can prepare them for that. Just because it's not cool to just all of a sudden, especially if you're tracking on the app and you're getting little reminders and Martinus got to this level, and all of a sudden for like an hour you don't have an update. Yeah, and it's scary because you just don't know where those people.
The runner's phone die because
they're outside for 7 hours. Yeah,
exactly.
Especially if you got the GPS on, forget it. It's never going to make it through the whole time. That drives me insane. By the way, I get a beef with Apple. I think with the iPhone.
So those are things, right?
Yeah,
leave the water.
Those are total. Yes, those are things.
If water can't be out, leave us a water cooler with water and then some cups.
And I like these solutions.
You can come back and get that. You can come back and get that, right?
I like these solutions. I think we're both onto something here because I think that you have some solutions to fix the problem as it stands, like the immediate issue. No water, figure out a way to get water out there. Just
Right.
figure it out. Whether or not you're, and for that, I mean, and I still think, I would say for me, and I know Marine Corps Marathon did this. Marine Corps Marathon had a pickup bus, and I think some marathons have this. The major ones especially do, where they drive behind, and if you're slacking too much behind, then they have to close it down. They pick you up, and you can't finish.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'll get picked up.
Right, you get a nice little drive home. They have the bridge there too, which is annoying. But anyway,
the bridge or whatever it's called.
So this one girl, something like the week before the marathon, she busted up her leg, and they couldn't. It was beyond the defer, beyond the transfer time. So she had two choices: run it or don't run it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Screw it! I paid all this money. I'm going to go out and give it a shot." Now she's like on crutches with like one of those things with a wheel that goes at, like, she's got her leg up on the thing, and she got like 6 or 7 miles, and there was an out and back, and I was going back, and I saw her like making it, and I was so impressed by this girl was even trying it, but good for her. And she was getting, picked up. And I guess my whole thing was going to be the pickup bus, but I guess marathons should know, and races should know where their last person is. They should account for every single person.
But they don't know because they picked up the timing mats, so they can't look on
right.
the
But
computer
I think that's such a responsibility.
Person, right?
It's like
it is a responsibility. It really is. It's a responsibility to the race directors to like do something.
People get in,
and that's the thing.
People get injured.
So
they get.
It drives me nuts. Here's the thing, Scott. It's either this: either abide by what you say the time cutoff is, and don't start taking up things until that time cutoff is, or you need to make the time cutoff shorter. To what it really is, the actual time you're going to start pulling up stuff. And if that happens, you might not get people to sign up because they're going to be like, oh, I can't beat that cutoff, so I'm going to go sign up for another race.
Right.
But capitalism won't let them do that. So that's why they keep it out there. And then we get screwed over.
So maybe there needs to be like a back of the pack compliance form or survey. Mm-hmm. Where a racer, hey, this is Martinus Evans approved, back of the pack compliant race, where questions like you have, like timing mats, like water, like the course markings and stuff like that, where you get the answers to that, and the expectations, the course cutoff, things like that. You get the expectations in advance, and then can communicate that. And then if the race doesn't live up to those standards, you can say, "Hey, we shouldn't be running this race anymore." Right. I kind of like this idea. This is a moneymaker, man. You should write this down.
I'm already in the works or something. Man. I'm working on something.
All right. I love it, man. I'm honestly, I hope I didn't like sabotage you. I hope you don't.
No, it ain't nothing to be sabotaged because the thing is this: I'm very passionate about being in the back of the pack.
Yep.
Like, I've been in the back of the pack since 2012. I've seen it all. I've run good races. I've ran bad races. Ran more bad than good when it comes to experience of the back of the pack. I understand that if I'm beyond the cutoff, I'm going to have my hydration pack for me for that, right?
Yep.
That I need to have a map or something, right? But what I'm saying is, for people who've already are within the cutoff, there shouldn't be no way. It don't matter if they finish 6:59:59 on a 7-hour course. Like, they should be treated the same because they are within the cutoff, and that's the agreement that we made. I paid money for this course to have this cutoff. You're going to provide me water, food, or some type of snack. You're going to provide me a way to navigate the course. And it's going to be all done in a safely manner. But when that doesn't happen, and you reach out to them and they don't, and you get crickets, or they be like, or they just don't say, or they just give you a half-ass apology, then what do? You can't ask for money back because you already ran the race, even though they didn't fulfill their part of the quote unquote contract, right? they didn't fulfill their part, and that's an issue. And for people and for elitists and elitist runners and other people to say like that's just the way it is, suck it up, buttercup, that's not right, because we paid the same money. You didn't pay more money than me, right, to participate in this race.
Right. No, I agree with you on that.
So why I'm not getting the same treatment?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I tell you what, too, is flip that around. I would bet that my friend Bill Costello had plenty of pizza for everyone that day, but it's the front of the Packers that had 2 slices. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's those guys. They had 2 and you had none. You know what I mean? I had none. So I think to that extent, I did, we had that one comment on the board that was sort of negative, and it was, it did challenge you a bit, which, I think when you write with the passion that you write, you're inviting challenge, which is cool. Yeah, I think that's cool. I think that's cool. I think that's with good. And you know what? I tried to challenge you as a friend just now, and you took it well, and we're good, and that's good. But I think
the internet, Scott,
his big point.
You can only write 2 ways with the internet. You can either, I can either write this neutral, and it doesn't reach anyone. I can write this as I'm whining about it, and then people call me a whiner, or I can write this very passionate, and then everybody comes out the woodworks.
Well, they're gonna express their opinion,
and they're gonna express their opinion, and they're gonna talk about it. And that's the thing. Within 7 days of me writing this article,
yep.
With no media exposure from Runner's World, Competitor, or any of the stuff, I had 40, 50,000 page views of people reading and commenting on this.
Yep.
I don't think I would have got this if I was whiny. I don't think I would have got this if I was neutral. But me writing passionate, that's what get people wound up, and that's the reason why I wrote it that way.
Yeah, and I think you certainly got your point across. Listen, man, let's wrap it up. Let's I think this was a really good back and forth. I am completely on your side with every single point that you've made. For me, it was like, and I think that probably where I come from, not where I come from, where my point that I come from is, it was just so aggressive, which is you, and I get it. It just was like, I believe everything he says. I just wish he would have just framed it a little kind, but you know what? You're right. And you wouldn't have gotten so much attention, and you wouldn't have gotten, this sort of, I think you have an opportunity because of the attention to enact change.
Yeah, it is. And I'm working on it. And that's the way that, when I thought about this, like, that's the way I want invoke change. I want somebody to evoke emotions. When I said, F you, fight me, you have an emotion that's tied to it. Whether that's, I'm a laugh because I think that's funny, or, oh, he shouldn't say this, or, who are you to say this? You have an emotion tied to it, and you're going to keep reading it until the end so you can formulate your own opinion. And that's what happened. And, I am working on some things, some projects to help better this in the future. But I think this is a start. Like, this is a catalyst to get people talking about it. And, regardless of the language, the tone, or whatever, these are valid points. And if you feel like my points are less valid because I said F you, fight me, I think that's a larger problem because
I honestly,
when I wrapped up the article, like I said, that we love your races, right?
Yeah. I think you probably get a certain percentage of the population that would read that, and they would read to where, because it says that pretty early, and the challenge comes very early in the article. Some people are going to read that and get turned off and not read the rest. I was close, to be honest. I was close because, and had I not known you, I might not have read the rest because I probably would have thought you're full of shit. But that's just kind of, I would be like, oh, what's it? This guy's just trying to get attention. But knowing you and then reading it, And then I think what got to me, and at least what put the point across, was all the personal anecdotes of, the things that were wrong that happened to all the runners that people were talking about. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen some of that stuff happen, and you're right, it is wrong, and there's got to be a way to fix it. And I think you're on the right track. So I don't want to keep you longer, man. We're like 1 hour plus here. This is one of the longest podcasts of all time. You're out in Cali. Come on, man. You got things to do. Listen, man.
I appreciate you, though, man. I appreciate you coming out and talking about it, because this is what I want. I want to
look, man. I'm not going to have you on the show and just pat you on the back and say what a great job without having a good conversation here about it and having a serious conversation, because it's a serious topic and it needs to be discussed.
Agreed.
So thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to keep looking forward to what you're putting out there, and keep my eye on you, Martinus Evans.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, man. 300 pounds and running. Check him out on Twitter. Check him out. He's got a Facebook group. He's got an Instagram. What else you got? The website.
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All things 300 pounds of running. 300 spell out pounds of running. I have a shirt. It's called Slow AF. It's kind of my brand.
It's got a turtle on it, right?
Yeah, I have a turtle. I have a sloth. I have a slug now. It's all things slow, and it's pretty much what it is for me is empowering the back of the pack. It's been many times where people have called me Slow AF. That
it's a badge of honor, man.
It's me taking that and empowering myself with it. I'm going to be slow, but I'm lapping anybody who's on the couch. And when it's all said and done, I'm a big body doing something that other people are not willing to do.
You know what? And it's inspirational, because I think that rewind about 10, 15 years ago, people your size are not doing marathons.
No.
It probably doesn't exist. So, above all, I think the inspiration that you put out there, and really the motivation to get people to motivate people to get up off the couch and get moving. I would always stand behind that cause. So you're welcome on the show anytime you want. You're welcome to post in my group anytime you like. Appreciate you, Martinus.
Thanks, man.
All right. Hopefully I'll get this thing out tomorrow, I think.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, next week, I have so many people I could bring on the show next week. Glenn Eisenstein's doing New York City Marathon. Katie Mayo is going to be done with Marine Corps Marathon. We got a lot of people to bring on the show. Who else? Jen Bergstrom is running 100 miles, the Javelina 100.
She's doing a Javelina 100?
She's doing the Javelina. She just flew out like yesterday. I was trying to get her on the show the day before, but I missed her. She's gone. She's already en route. So I think that race isn't. I don't think it's till the week after. I think she's chilling out at the Grand Canyon or something for a week. But anyway,
when is it? It should be coming up soon.
Yeah.
It's next weekend.
Yeah. I think it's. I don't think it's this weekend. I think it's the following.
It's the weekend before NYC. Because LaToya, she's doing it. She's doing the Javelina 100, and then she's coming back and doing the New York City Marathon back to back.
Wow. Oh, my God.
So,
yes,
she is a freaking beast, man. And I'm working on something like that. I'm working on a project for like ultra marathoner type stuff next year, but I'm still in the works trying to figure out sponsors and things of that sort.
Are you getting into that? Are you going to... Is that a potential Martinus ultra marathon?
Yeah.
Are you going to do one?
I think so. And so I'm working on a few things, man. I'm working on. 2019 is going to be a big year because this article and that already alone,
it's changing.
Like everything,
you're getting some momentum.
Has changed.
You're getting some momentum.
Like the blog has changed, the website has changed, like everything has changed. And like I said, the way I wrote it and when I was thinking about writing it, like I was writing this like, oh, this is gonna be it right here. Like, oh, this is gonna be it. Because the way the tone it is, like I wrote it in the way that I want people to have like this visceral feeling for it. And you're either going to be like, yes, I'm rolling with you on this or no. And that's what I wanted. I wanted people to draw a line in the sand and pick a side.
Nice, man. I think you did a good job with it. I think you've achieved, I think, what you set out to achieve, which is good.
I appreciate it, man.
Wish you all the best, man.
Thanks, man.
All right. With that, always remember, when it comes to running, I'm no expert. I'm just ordinary.